Thank you everyone for attending today's Getting Started with Python workshop. As we get started today, we want to begin with a territorial acknowledgement. The University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the Nutra, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. So once again, welcome. My name is Melanie and I work for WatSPEED here at the University of Waterloo. My colleague Ella is also on the call with us today. And during the info session, if you have any technical issues, please feel free to reach out to myself or Ella directly via the private chat feature, and we'll be able to assist you. So basically anybody with the name WatSPEED in their name. Joining us, we have our instructor and our lead for today's workshop, Dr. Carmen Bruni. And as we progress through today's workshop, there will be a Q&A segment at the end. So if you have any questions that come up, you can put them in the chat. We might address them in the moment. We might just wait to address them, but we will get to them eventually. And then alternatively, during the Q&A session, if you'd like to come off mute and ask your question, that would also be welcome. So without further ado, Carmen, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Melanie, for the introduction. And hello, everyone. Just making sure everyone can hear me. Is that true? Okay, I see some head nods, which is a good start. So again, hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Carmen Bruni. I am an associate professor teaching stream on the David Archard School of Computer Science. So very, very excited to be here with you all today. In my role today, I am the lead author and the instructor of the two courses that I'm going to demo today, Python 1 and Python 2. I've spent a couple of years building these. I'm really, really excited. I'm very happy that you all could join us. The goal for today will be sort of to convince you why learning Python is maybe in your best interest or in good interest of yours. Show you a little bit about some of the things that you would learn inside these courses, and then any questions that might come up as you have them. So I will answer all the questions at the end. If you do come up with a question though as I'm talking, feel free to type it in the chat. I'm happy to answer them after the presentation. So without further ado, Python data, right? Everyone is probably aware right now in the news, artificial intelligence, data science, these terms are once again really, really hot right now, right? I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to use some of these systems, try some of these LLMs that have existed, or ChatGPT, etc. Very, very, it's an exciting time right now to be in computer science and AI and in just big data in general. The slide says data is the new currency. I don't know how new it is anymore, but that is definitely becoming a very monetizable form of currency for sure. So on this slide, you see the question here. So this is from a statistics or we call it a survey that was given out. They asked two questions. We monetize data assets and insights through our products and services, and we quantify the value of data in our accounting systems. Pretty much across the board, or at least across these sectors that we've highlighted here, it's the pretty large number of people that are saying yes to this idea. And to be honest with you, I suspect these numbers are even higher now. And if they're not, I think a lot of people are missing out on a big opportunity to take data and to try to use it to their business or whatever it is that they're doing. It's absolutely amazing what you can do when you have more information and how you can make new inferences and how you can try to design new systems based on this, right? So this survey was taken in August 2020. I suspect now if we asked again, it would be far, far higher in all of these industries. I mean, you can't do anything these days without a good understanding of data. So data is really, really important. And managing that data is not trivial and does take a lot of skill and a very, very special kind of person. So what do programmers, what do people actually, how do they handle this data? And one of the
Sorry,
ways they do that is
Carmen.
actually,
I just wanted to jump in very quickly. It's showing me your bandwidth is low, and so your video is lagging. It might be better if you go off camera, and it'll help speed things up for the
I
viewers.
think,
Sorry to interrupt.
interesting. No, that's okay. I guess other people are having. Wait, do you want me off camera or do you want the viewers to go off camera?
No, if you turn your camera off, it should
Sure,
speed
okay.
up. It should speed it up.
Okay. I will turn my camera off.
We
Oops.
should be able to
Okay.
still see the slides, and we can.
Yeah,
So
of
thank you.
course. Of course, of course. All right, let me know if it does or doesn't. Sorry, you won't get to see my beautiful face, but that's okay. Probably for the best. Why Python? So Python is a fantastic language. I'll tell you the story of how I entered Python. I was a graduate student in 2014, and I could see in 2014, so 11 years ago, that this language was kind of taking off, that people were really interested in learning it or, in developing it. It was being used for a lot of data applications back in 2014. And I said to myself, let's get some people together and let's try to figure this language out. And so as a graduate student, I did that. Got a couple of people, we learned a language, and I mean, it's changed my life since then. So why Python? It's a well-developed language. It handles text processing very, very, very well. It is one of the like industry standards, like the industry leading standard when it comes to processing data. If you want to do anything in artificial intelligence, you want to do anything in machine learning, you want to do anything in data science, Python is most certainly the go-to language. There's still growing demand even after those 11 years. It's scalable, it's efficient. There's lots of different programming paradigms in Python, so it's very robust. Lots of different reason why you should study Python if you're going to pick up any language whatsoever. So I do highly recommend, even if it's like your first language, you've never spoken a programming language before, Python's a good first language to get into for sure. So what is Python? So I've kind of mentioned these things, right? It is a versatile programming language. It's known for its ease of use. The syntax is very, very simple. It's easy to remember. Like if you don't touch it for a couple of months, you can go back to it fairly quickly. It is the language of choice for most people in AI, data science, and machine learning. These are very, it's well developed. Many people program in this language for these reasons, right? It is easy to use. There's a good community around it. Absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend, if you're going to learn one language, I would tell people to learn Python. This would be the language to learn. Key features. Now, I mentioned this twice, but I'll mention one more time. It is easy to learn and use. It's not too bad. The syntax is pretty unforgettable for the most part. Once you've picked it up, you should be able to remember it for the long term. It is versatile and multi-paradigm. You have like sort of imperative programming thing in the background, a functional programming paradigm. There's still like an object-oriented component to it. It can handle big data. It can handle parallel processing. It can do just all sorts of things. Anything you really want to do, you should be able to do in Python. Extensive libraries and framework. It is one of the most developed languages right now. A lot of people are putting time and effort into making extra libraries and extra modules for it. Again, there's so much you can do in the language, from building a cell phone app to designing web pages. You really can do quite a bit in Python, right? Not just the data processing that we're going to focus on today. There really is a lot of flexibility to the language. Cross-platform compatibility, whether you're using a Windows machine, a Mac, or if you're a very brave soul out there using Linux, you should be able to have no problems picking up Python, putting it on your machine, and running with it. So it really does support all of the major operating systems. And like I've said a couple of times, the community support is absolutely fantastic. There's just hundreds of millions of people that program in this language. It's absolutely incredible. The community is so good. So please do join. It's fun. Applications. Well, I mentioned some of these. Obviously, the data science, the machine learning one, the one I'll focus on today. It's the most common one. There are web development frameworks though, like Django and Flask, which you can get interested in if you decide to take Python 1, you want to go into that route. There is a library for you, so to speak. If you want to do automation and scripting, Python is a great language for scripting. You can start to take some of the more boring parts of your life and use Python to handle those things. And software development, right? So again, just as a general principle, if you're trying to build an application, you can do that in Python. Very, very common. We, like I said, in 2014, when I learned the language, we had our goal to build a cell phone app in Python. Wasn't the best cell phone app, of course, right? My first time using a language, but still you could do it. It was more a proof of concept for us, and that's what we managed to do at the end of our 4 months of studying as graduate students. So like I said, I'm going to focus on the applications in data science. This one's a pretty neglected one, I would say, or at least not one that a lot of people want to talk about, but data is very messy for the most part, right? When you get data, it's usually not this wonderful, beautiful, clean data set, right? Usually it's got garbage, it's got extra columns, it's got characters that don't make sense, it's data that can't possibly be correct. And so part of the process of doing all of the like artificial intelligence and machine learning type stuff is cleaning your data. And that's something that Python can handle very, very well. Predictive analytics, right? Once you clean your data, you can use some of the tools in machine learning and artificial intelligence to do that sort of learning that you want a computer to do. and use that to make predictions on the future. And so that's part of where all this artificial intelligence is coming in, or these large language models. They do this sort of predictive analysis. And then lastly, big data management, right? So, in order to train these artificial intelligence models, or even not even at that scale, like even if you just own a small business or something like this, you're going to have a lot of data, and you're going to have some way to manage this data if you want to ever, hope to make some sort of prediction on the future or to try to make decisions on what direction you want to take your company. And Python's a great way to handle this big type of data, right? We've had people who take this course who have been in medicine. We've had them be in accounting or be in finance, things like this. It's hard to find a field that doesn't have a lot of data that needs sort of management. And Python is a great language to handle that sort of data management. I'll show you an example when we get to the demo part of the presentation, which happens to be right now. So let me go to, just gonna move this down slightly so I can see. Oh, I can do that. Okay. You guys can see my entire screen still? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So this is the LMS that we have, or the learning management system for Python 1 and Python 2. We're using a platform called OpenEdX. Part of the reason why we're using this platform is because it was open source, right? And so we could actually download it, modify it as we needed, which we've done. And I think we have a great product at the end of the day. So here's our Python course, 8 modules, okay? Roughly speaking, 5 hours a week is sort of what we're targeting, but really depending on the person. Some people have reported taking more time, some people have reported taking less time. It really does depend on how much background you have. If you have an unfamiliar background, you've never programmed before, computers really aren't your thing, it's probably gonna take you a little bit longer to do the course. And if you have a strong background, maybe you're an engineer, maybe you've programmed in a different language before, you should be able to do it a little bit faster. Also, your I guess words per minute, that's another thing that could, no matter how quickly you type, could also affect how quickly you go through the course. But that's our target, this course. With Python 1 and Python 2 and 8 modules, we start off with a pure introduction to Python. So we assume that you've never programmed anything in your life, and then we finish by talking about classes, which I think is pretty cool. The general structure of a module, we start off with a warm-up quiz, and that warm-up quiz, the first one will just be kind of navigating the site, and then subsequent warm-up quizzes will reference back to previous material. And that idea is that we want to make sure that you're, keeping this knowledge long-term. We don't just want you to take a course and then, the course ends and you forget everything that you did. The idea behind the warm-up quizzes should hopefully be to reinforce some of the things that you've learned in earlier modules. Okay? So that's how every quiz or every module will start off with a warm-up quiz, a couple of lessons. So you notice the first one is primarily just basic arithmetic and a couple of math module things. Don't be afraid, by the way, if math is not your strongest subject, that's completely okay. I've had people take this course who are who would classify as being math phobic for sure. And that's okay, right? The first module will have some of the math things, but after that, the math will be present, but it's not like you have to be able to multiply 5-digit numbers, not like you have to know every complicated trigonometric function or anything like this. You just need to know that they exist in Python and to find them if you need them. One of the things I love about this course is that I've spent a long time in Python 1. I'm working on this chapter 1.6, or in the second last chapter of every module is a worked examples section. For every module, I try to give 2 examples of what you might see in the real world and how you might actually use Python to solve some of these challenging problems. And then, of course, every quiz ends up, or every module ends up with a wrap-up quiz. Okay? To earn the certificate in the course, to obtain 70% over all the quizzes. Quizzes contain, let me show you one example of a quiz, just that you can see one, at least briefly. Quizzes will contain different types of problems. They'll range from your standard multiple choice type problems to, oh my goodness, I'm showing you the answers. Maybe I should hide the answers. Let's see if I can hide the answers. Oh, maybe I can't. That's okay. Anyways, there's some multiple select questions. So where you have to select multiple different options. There's some programming questions where you're given code and maybe need to correct it. There's some text field questions where you're given a question that you have to enter the text answer to. Here's standard multiple choice questions. So here's a little bit of code. What happens after I run it? And here are some programming questions. You actually have to complete the body of a function and submit it to see if you are correct. So lots of different types of problems that we have here. One thing I love about the course that we have here at WatSPEED is that we actually do force you to program, right? A lot of courses that are in Python, they don't really necessarily force you to actually write any code in order to get a certificate, which I find a little bit off-putting, right? In order to get the certificate for this, you have to write. You're going to have to write some code. You have to solve some programming problems, which makes sense, right? If we're going to deem that you're competent in the language, you should, be able to actually type in solutions to certain programming problems. And so these are what quizzes look like. You don't have to score 70% on every quiz. You just have to score 70% overall across the independent quizzes. So if a quiz goes poorly, that's okay. Do better on the other ones, you'll still be okay. Most questions have one attempt, but your programming problems, you can submit as many times as you'd like. So here's a programming problem, reverse. You notice that the attempts are 0 out of unlimited. So you actually can submit, resubmit, resubmit until you get it right. So really, it'll be a battle of like how much you really want to learn this and how much you want to get done. So I think that's pretty cool. I'll show you Python 2 in a minute. I do want to do a quick little demo, though, of one of the worked examples. So here I've picked work example 3.6, one of the two examples anyways. I picked this one because it's one that I think we're all familiar with, right? I'm assuming at some point in your life, you've had to log into a system where you needed a password. I think this is something that everyone has done at least once, okay? And passwords, as we know, they have these convoluted systems for, what is accepted and what isn't accepted. There's actually a great reason why these password criteria are so convoluted, which I won't get into today, but it is kind of, it's a good little exercise to maybe look that up if you're interested. Here what we're going to do is instead of like talking about the why passwords are like this, let's try to actually build a like verifier. So if a person enters a password, does it actually meet some criteria? And what are the criteria that we're going to insist on? It contains no spaces. It's at least 8 characters long. We have one upper, one lower, and one number. It contains at least one character from the following set of special characters, fine. And that's it. And we're going to write an interactive password checker. So we're going to not solve this entire problem, but we'll solve parts of this problem, okay, today. And so that's going to be my goal. Again, it's going to go a little bit quick, which is okay. In the course, you can sort of go at your own pace. It is asynchronous. So, if it takes you a little bit longer to do a module, that's okay. If something happens at home and you weren't able to do a week on time, that's okay. You should have some time. You have about, I think, 11 weeks that we give you to do the 8 weeks worth of work. So, if it takes you a little bit longer to do a little bit, that's okay. So anyway, password. So let's actually try to do this. Okay? Here's a sandbox. So this is what a coding environment will look like. Nothing too fancy. Actually, I'm going to leave it big. It's nothing fancy. I can type. It's just like any text editor. Hi, mom, right? For us, so I'm going to type in Python code. So I call the function password checker. Okay? And what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get some input from the user. Please enter a password. Okay? So fine. So S will have a password. Okay? We're just going to ask them to enter one password. And then, you might want to reframe this so that you enter multiple times if a person enters an invalid password. But we're just going to let the user enter one password and then check it. Okay. So please enter a password. Our string S here will store the value that was entered by the user when they type it in the keyboard. What do we have to do now? Now, at this point, we want to check whether or not this S has some of the desired properties, right? So one of them was the length had to be at least 8 characters. So here we can use something called an if statement. So if the length is less than 8, we want to return false, right? So this is not going to be a valid password. The password had to at least have 8 characters, right? The password also needed to not contain spaces. So if a space is inside my string, return false. So if you're looking at this again for the first time, what is a return statement? What do these things kind of mean? Hopefully it kind of at least makes sense from like an English standpoint. Again, right, my point isn't to explain everything that's going on with what I'm typing, but I want to kind of show you that, hey, look, this is like what I would say in English, right? Like if the length of my string is less than 8, this is a bad password. Yeah, I have worded in Python, but that's pretty much what I'm saying. If a space is inside my string, this is bad, and I want to, tell the user that this was bad. And the translation of this is bad is returning false. Okay? What else do I want to do? I also want to make sure that like all the letters, or that there's some like lowercase letter inside my string. And so one of the ways I can do this, I'll do this a very slow way, but I'm going to actually just type in all the different letters of the alphabet, like so. Okay? And then I'm going to ask for each character in my alphabet. Okay? I want to ask if my character is not in there. I want to have some sort of like flag equals um, false. So what I want to say is that if a character from the alphabet is inside my string, I want to make flag 2 or true. So if C is in my string, flag is true. And if flag, I can say, if my flag is false, I want to return false. Okay. So what is this little bit of code doing? Well, I've set alphabet and I've set flag to be false. And for every character in the alphabet, I'm seeing if it's in S. And if it is, then I want to return, or I want my flag to be true. And so the only way that on line 16 my flag is false, so after I went through every letter of the alphabet, I never set my flag to be true. That must mean that it didn't contain a lowercase letter. And so I return false in that situation. And this code is doing. Again, it's not too hard to read, right? For every letter in the alphabet, maybe I even want to do that. Instead of calling C, maybe I should be a good programmer and name my variable a little bit better. Variable. If my is inside my string, I want my flag to. And again, the point of this again, if it's going too fast, that's okay. This was just wanted to show you one of the things that you'll be able to do by the end course. And this is very practical. This is something everyone. I mean, if you got into this meeting, almost certainly you have had to like set up a password at some point. The next thing we can do is we could, we say, okay, well, these are lowercase letters. How do I do the uppercase letters, right? I could do this. So I could take my upper alphabet, and I could take my lower alphabet and say, make it an uppercase. And then when I do this, I can do the same thing. Take this code, I copy and paste it. I could use this to upper alphabet, and it would be the same. Now this works, but I've sort of broken a very common or very important software engineering principle. And this is something you'll learn in the course as well, right? As a general rule of thumb, if you're programming and you ever copy and paste code, you're doing something wrong. Right? What you really be doing is factoring your code into some function that you pass values to, and then call that function with different parameters. Okay? So because these two pieces of code are basically identical, I actually want to make a little function here, like def contains or something like this. It's going to contain S characters. Okay? And what am I? I'm going to take a little code here. I'm going to pop it in. And I take this, I have this contains function. This will be characters. Down to the bottom, return true. So here's my little contains function that will figure out whether or not a character occurs inside S. And now what I can do is I call, I can say flag is to contains S, and oops, got rid of my alphabet. I can put that back in here though. Okay. So S contains alphabet and contains S and alphabet dot upper. Okay. And now if flag is false, return false. Okay. So notice here how we've taken a piece of code that we're using multiple times, we've factored it out into a function, and we've called that function 2 separate times on 2 different values to give us what we actually wanted. And now the beauty of this, so we went through all this effort, we could now do this a 3rd time if we wanted to get the numbers. So if I do this for numbers too, so contain S alpha, I can do this and upper, and can do this also with numbers now, because I have a well-written function that's robust enough to handle 3 different situations: lowercase letters, case letters, and numbers. Very, very. So this everything fixed type. This isn't the whole question. I think we had to also do special characters as well. So I mean, I guess I could throw that in if I really wanted. Maybe I will. We could throw it one more because again, coded relatively well. And we can actually put in the special characters as well and turn true, something like this, right? Okay, then run, we got our code, but we're gonna do print. And what did we call this? Password checker, I think we called it. Password checker. So password checker, we'll call this. If in our code, you should see at the bottom an error because, what did I do? Contains alphabet was never closed. So let's see if we can find our little mistake here. Right here. Ta-da! So this is an error. Sometimes you make syntax errors. Not everyone, not perfect. I'm just like everyone else. But I had a open bracket, a closed bracket on that line. Now if I run, it should come up. Password. I don't know, banana. So this should be a bad password. So hopefully I get returned false for many reasons. And I got the message false to appear. You could have so that it appears multiple times. It would be better a colon and a space here. So it looks a little bit nicer. So we can already see a couple of small fixes. Maybe you want to ask for another password. That's something that you can do. For now, though, we'll keep rerunning our code. How about try something a little bit long? So maybe Anna RAM 2025, maybe. Still gonna be, oh, sorry, oops. I should have hit enter. I did not. Banana, oops. Ooh. Run it one more time. Banana Rama 2025. If I hit enter, it still doesn't contain uppercase, it doesn't contain this character. Let's run it one time with maybe a classic password for those of you that like are big movie or big television show buffs. Wonder if anyone in the chat recognizes where this password is from. Maybe getting too old. Maybe this reference is not as common anymore. But let's try trust no one. I'm gonna put enter and we get true. So trust no one is a completely valid password. Anyone understand, or if anyone knows the TV reference that this is referring to, please type it in. Maybe there's multiple TV references, but there's one for sure. But yeah, there we go. So we developed about 10 minutes complete and fully functioning password checker. Maybe I'm missing a criteria, but I think this was everything that we had. No spaces, length less than 8. And notice how we factored out that code to make it look pretty clean. We do still have to do other things to tidy up the code. We have to include documentation. We should do more robust testing, et cetera, et cetera. These are all the skills that you will learn in this course. I really wanted to show you how, by the end of this course, this will be something that you can do, not a problem in Python, okay? I find it very cool. And so what topics will we learn? I'll talk about the topic now since I have the course open. But there's an introduction to programming. There'll be variables and conditional statements. Those are the if statements that we talked about. We'll talk about strings in module 3. We'll talk about tuples and iteration in module 4. Lists, so our first mutable data type. So we're going to take list, and it'll be module 5. It's a huge module, even though it looks like it's just covering one topic. Module 6 will deal with other mutable data types like sets and dictionaries. Then we deal with file input and output, a skill that you will need to master if you're going to deal with big data. And lastly, we'll talk about classes. Some cool things about the course is that you will actually be able to download the course and download all your work afterwards. If you wanted to set up like a public-facing GitHub profile or something like this, so that people could see all the work that you've done in the course, yeah, you would have the ability to do so. Python 2. So I'm going to show you Python 2, and then I'll do the demo. Python 2 has it builds on Python 1. So I would not generally speaking recommend that you jump into Python 2 with a decent amount of experience in Python 1. We're going to focus in this module or in this course in Python 2 on 2 advanced modules. One of them is called NumPy. This is good for scientific computing if you have to deal with floating point numbers, if you want to deal with arithmetic on a large scale, or linear algebra, calculus, anything like this, you're going to need to use NumPy. This is going to be the main primary module that you'll use if you're doing advanced mathematics in Python. That being said, though, we again don't go into all of the heavy mathematics, but we do introduce NumPy because that's what we need. We'll talk about other Python modules. These include regular expressions and the time module. We talk about CSVs and JSON files and a couple of other things in this section, which are really cool. Then the main event, we talk about a module called Pandas. So it's not some big, cute, lovable black and white bear. Pandas is a very popular Python module that you use for data science, right? And the idea is that, Pandas should take the form of everything that you do inside Excel, you can now translate to doing inside Python at a much higher level. That's really the way you should think about Pandas. You're handling tabular data in an efficient way. That's big enough to take 2 modules. So you'll learn that in 2 modules. Data munging, so that process of actually cleaning up the data. We talk about module 6 once we have all our tools. Then we talk about actually visualize data. So we talk about matplotlib and graphing, and then we finish off with a discussion on Seaborn and a little bit of some other modules like Bouquet we talk about at the end, which I think are really, really cool. And so what sort of skills will you learn in the second course? So if you look at this page, this is now Jupyter Notebook is what this is called. And these are going to be some of the things we introduce in Python too. There's a common way for people to handle or to use Python in the quote unquote real world. Okay? So they open up a Jupyter Notebook and they handle things like using NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn, and things like this. So a notebook has this wonderful ability to just be able to type in Python code and you can quickly execute it by hitting Shift Enter. So I can do my 1 + 1, I can do my like s is equal to hi mom, and I can, print out the length of s. In fact, I can just call length s, and Jupyter Notebooks know that if the last thing you call, you do actually tell it to print, it will display what the value is on the screen, which I think is pretty cool. For us, though, this isn't important. We actually are going to do a little quick demo with Seaborn. So we're going to store our data set. I'm going to call it data frame, sns.load. Here's a nice little feature, too, of our Jupyter Notebook, is if I hit tab, I get to figure out what the function is that I actually wanted. So here, I want load data set, and I'm going to load penguin. There's a cool penguins data set, which I will show you right now. So load the data set and display it. Here you can see it contains 344 rows. It's a relatively small data set. And here we have the species, the island that these penguins are on, what their bill length is, what their bill depth is, what their flipper length is, how big they are, their body mass in grams, and whether or not they're male or female, or if we don't have data for some reason. Here's our data set. Now, once we have our data set, so let me just go down a little bit. What can we do with our data set? Well, one of the things that we might want to do is we might want to plot things. So if I do sns.scatterplot, I can take a scatter plot of my data frame. Maybe I want to plot, I don't know, let's do bill length and bill depth first. There we are. So I'm going to plot bill length on my x-axis, and I'm going to plot bill depth on my y-axis. We'll just start with this for now. Okay? So if I do this, I get this beautiful data plot with all the data in there. So again, a very short period of, or a very short line of code, and I can already get something pretty cool. It doesn't really, though, tell me that much. I mean, it just tells me what the bill length is versus the bill depth. Almost certainly by looking at this data and maybe just, using intuition, it probably will depend on things like sex and species and island, right? And so we might want to add more dimensions here. And one way we can do that is by adding, let's say, a color. So we can add an island hue. And this tells me, oh, look, all of the like Bisco penguins happen to fall in this region, and all the Dream penguins happen to fall in this, region, okay? That's kind of cool. We could change this. We could do this by species instead, maybe. Whoa, that looks pretty cool, right? So now I can see a clear division here. It's not perfect, right? But like all the blue ones seem to be in this top left corner, all the green ones seem to be in this bottom right corner, and the orange ones seem to somewhere be in the middle, okay? These are things that, okay, so like I'm doing this visually for us because I have 40 minutes, but you can quantify these things more mathematically, and that's part of the skills that you will at least start to develop in Python too. It's a data science course, so we can't do everything, but it is the starting of how to use these tools to make these inferences, right? And if you want, okay, like I just took 2 criteria. Well, there's a lot more criteria. What if I wanted to see more things? And this is the beauty of learning Seaborn. And the beauty of learning Seaborn is that, I guess I don't need all this, but with a very short period of code, so ss.pairplot my data frame and hue species, I can get a lot of data visually displayed in a very quick amount of code. So here, look, I'm displaying now graphs of bill length versus body mass, bill depth versus body mass, and flipper length versus body mass. I've got all of the different numerical axes displayed in one quick, convenient graph. And I did that with 25 characters of code. I think that's incredible. And these are some of the skills that you will learn in the Python 2 course. I think it's awesome. I think it's worth learning. I think it's a really, really cool module, a cool package. But these are the things that you'll learn in Python too. So this side of stuff excites you or interests you, or you're like, oh wow, I could use this in my work, try to visualize this and this and this and that, and then I can try to determine how to do this to monetize something. And Yeah, like this is the course for you then, for sure. Okay. But if you don't have any Python experience, start with Python 1. It's my heavy recommendation. Okay, so those are my Python demos. We talked a bit about what you'll learn in the program, so I won't repeat that here, given that I showed you in the actual course. What is the structure? Again, okay, up to 5 hours. That's a real personal dependent criteria, right? I can't remember if I mentioned this exactly, but like I've had neurosurgeons take these courses and they did them in much less than 5 hours. Obviously, neurosurgeons tend to be pretty smart people. And I've had people who are math phobic who took these courses. Obviously, they took more than 5 hours, but they got through the course and got a lot of it from what they told me. They even told me, I was really, really scared to take this course, and like I wasn't sure if it was for me. You told me to stick it out. I trusted you, and like by the end of it, man, this was absolutely awesome. I loved learning about this, and I feel confident coding on my own, which I think is like a huge win for Python 1. What does the course include? It includes text, visuals, videos, and interactive activities. I tend to lean to not have videos in many spots. There's a lot of reasons for this. They're hard to search up. It's hard to people tend to rewatch videos because information tends to come at them very quickly. So I tend to reserve when I use a video for when I absolutely feel like I need to have a video. There are times where videos make sense as the mode of dissemination of information. But for the most part, I do try to make text, visuals, and interactive activities. I really do want you to actually learn the language by trying the language out, right? You can imagine trying to learn a language like Italian or French. If you never actually get a chance to speak the language, you're not going to learn it, right? And so similarly, how do you learn a programming language where you actually have to type things into a computer and see what it does, right? So there are a lot of interactive activities. Okay? It is independent online learning. So again, for the most part, you can move at your own pace, study when you'd like, lots of hands-on exercises. I do respond very, very well to discussion boards and to emails if people email me. I often joke with people that if I reply to your email within 24 hours, you should please like call somebody because something might have happened to me. So like I do reply fairly quickly. I do reply on weekends, evenings, mornings. My schedule, my hours are very erratic. So you might get replies to me at really weird times. There are optional live and drop-in sessions. So we run 8 drop-in sessions throughout the course. So starting on week 1, we run our first drop-in session and we go for 8 weeks. Like I said, we do accept solutions though for 11 weeks. So there will be a couple of weeks where you might still be working things and there won't be a live drop-in session. That's okay. Just feel free to shoot me a discussion board message or email me. Take advantage of these though, right? I mean, it's one of the things that you're paying for in this course. You're paying in some sense for my time. So ask me questions, right? Get the most out of the course that you can. And for Python 1, everything is completely hosted in edX. For Python 2, everything is also completely hosted in edX. But for Python 2, I highly recommend that you download the software just so that you get some experience beyond the course and using some of the tools on your own. But for Python 1, I really do want to make that course about, hey, you've expressed an interest in learning a new programming language or your first programming language. Let me not like bog you down by the installation software boss who is like incredibly difficult sometimes and frustrating and annoying. Now, you just have to, you log in, you're going to get your edX access, you put in your credentials using a password that you created. And once you've done that, then yeah, you're good to go. You can do everything within the browser for both courses, but specifically for Python 1 especially. You can definitely do it all. Within the browser, you don't need to install everything if you don't want. Other than a browser, but if you got here, you must have like Firefox, Chrome, or something installed. That's it. So I've talked for 41 minutes, which is only 1 minute more than I really wanted to talk for. It's not too bad. I'm going to take questions now. I'll leave, I think, this slide. Which slide do I want to leave up? Maybe this one? This one? There is an early bird discount if you register before August 8th or 18th, sorry. Let me leave on this slide. So in case you wanted to screenshot the QR codes or just screenshot the slide, if you are interested. And there's like 49 of you in the chat, which is awesome. I'm gonna start taking questions. Melanie or Ella, do you want to moderate or do you want me to just maybe go through the chat like 1,300 messages in the chat? So
I can read you out the questions if you want.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Some of them were answered. I'm going to go to the ones that we didn't answer. And then there's also pre-submitted questions, so we will get to those as well. If you pre-submitted a question, we
Sure,
haven't
yeah.
forgot about it.
Can I go? I don't know. Should I go back on camera? Surely, like people, I don't know. If,
Yeah.
if there's a latency problem again, Ella, just let me know. I apologize if there's a latency problem.
So this might
I'll go
be
back
for
on camera.
you potentially or for Ella, I'm not sure, but someone said I took the course called Foundations of Data Science. Would these courses you are showing now overlap with what is covered in the Foundations of Data Science course?
So there's, I mean, if of course, assuming that was a WatSPEED course and assuming it's in Python, there almost 100% will be some overlap. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Why is it not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like seeing a topic over and over again is nope. Seeing a topic over and over is how you're going to learn things, right? Um, I think these courses, Python 1 and Python 2, they do go into much more depth into the language itself, right? My goal is to teach you these languages. So I don't necessarily have the goal of just, by the end of this, I want you to be able to like open a data set and print something out. That is going to be what you will learn in Python 2. But I really want you to understand what happens when you open that data set. What happens when you process the data? What happens when you get to an error? And how can you resolve those errors? Those are really the things that I want to focus on in these two courses. So, if you've taken other Python courses before, there will be overlap. There's no way there won't be. But I do think that especially Python 1, you're going to learn those software engineering skills that you really want to have if you're going to go out there and really try to like use these things in the real world. And then in Python 2, you're going to take those skills that you've already developed in Python 1 and really apply them to the realm of data science and machine learning. Well, really data science, right? Really handling data. Ella, maybe you want to say more now that
Yeah,
I've
I can definitely help address the overlap between the courses. So Intro to Python 3 is an Ed2Go course that we provide, and it's not taken in the same platform. So edX, which Carmen showed on the screen, is really one of the big advantages of this course. You get to go in and test and experiment and learn and try things out. And it's also providing the instructor availability in case you need that support. Foundations for Data Science is the first course in the Data Science Certificate. Python 1 and Python 2 and Intro to Python 3 that was mentioned before, they can help prepare you for the Data Science Certificate. These two courses specifically are a great start into foundations to data science, but it depends on how you found the course. If you found it comfortable and you're able to manage well, then the next one I would recommend is the statistics course that's part of the data science certificate. However, if you found that that was a bit of a struggle, I would suggest to go back to Python 1 or potentially Python 2, which leads on to it. So no coding or prior knowledge needed for Python 1. And speaking for myself as well, I took the Python 1 course with no coding, and it was the first time I was really able to do that using the platform, which was great. Python 2 takes you to the next step, and it sets you up for really great success in our data science program, which goes in through, there is overlap, but it goes through some of these things a lot faster. And so you might find it hard to keep up if you don't have the building blocks, which these two courses provide. I hope that helps to answer that.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm wrong, just send another message in the chat and we can clarify or follow up. Someone asked what flavor of Python are you using slash teaching on?
Yeah, this might need a little bit of clarification. So the Python language, I think it's the version we have maybe on edX is like 3.11 or 3.12. The differences between like 3.7 and 3.12 for most purposes are fairly small. There's a couple of stylistic things that are different and a couple of other small things that we kind of use. But for the most part, I mean, like there's not enough that changes. So if that was your question, like what version of Python? I think it's Python 3.11, 3.12 in edX. And I think maybe 3.13 has just been released. So I mean, we could update it if we wanted, but it's not going to change anything in terms of the course. In terms of what like editor and stuff we use, like I said, edX is self-contained. So we actually are just using the built-in or the software edX inside your browser. In terms of Python 2, we do strongly encourage you to download Python and put Jupyter notebooks on your machine and then use it locally. But you can also do that entire course from within the browser. So if hopefully that answers your question, but if not, do let me know.
Um, So somebody also asked, I'm interested in learning if this course is for me. I'm looking to learn how to code, but not sure if Python is the way to go.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that if you've never programmed before, you want to figure out if like, you're going to enjoy this, you're going to have a good time. I think learning Python is for sure the way to go. I'm going to be very biased, obviously, when I say this, but like, I mean, I think the course that we have here at Waterloo is fantastic. I really do. Um, you actually do get some pretty practical experience. You can ask questions. There's lots of good problems in here that will help develop your problem solving skills. I think it's hard to go wrong with the course that we have here. You know, it's not to say that like it's perfect. Like, I mean, nothing's perfect, but I think it's a very, very good course. I think you could take a lot of other courses and not find one of this quality elsewhere. I completely do believe that. So I think that's important. It's not like somebody who I teach, like, I mean, I teach at the University of Waterloo, right? So, like, I mean, I've been hired here, I have a PhD from the University of British Columbia. Like, I mean, I have credentials. It's not like I'm not a random person on the internet that's like trying to like, you know, sell you snake oil or something like this, right? Like, I mean, this is like I have experience in this, right? Like I said, I've been programming since 2014 in Python. So like I do have some experience at least in the language, and I know what students tend to do, so I should be able to help you overcome whatever hurdles you're happening. So I don't know. I think if you're trying to learn how to program, Python is a great first language. It's very simple to use. It is one of the languages that we teach here in our undergrad program because of that reason. Um, so yeah, I think it'd be hard to go wrong. If you're gonna pick only one language, the language I recommend learning is Python for sure.
And then somebody asked, I would like to know if this course requires any programming slash background knowledge or previous education.
No, you do need like I said, if like something like 5 + 2 like scares you, okay, maybe not is not your course. But I mean, I'm going to assume that nobody here is completely terrified by like things like basic arithmetic and stuff like that. And I think you should be totally fine in this course. Um, I really, really do. I've designed to start from the ground up, and so if something is not clear, you should definitely like feel free to ask me, and we'll clarify things and get you over the hump. I think that's the key.
And then another question was, can I start to work in the technical industry after I have completed this course?
So this is a good question, and I don't want to lie to people, right? I mean, if you think about what we're saying that this is a 5 hour a week course for 8 weeks. So that's like 40 hours, right? I think I would be lying to anyone on this planet if I said, well, all you do is 40 hours, like basically 1 week of work, and you can get a tech job, no problem. I don't think that's going to be true. I think anyone that's telling you that is just lying to you. However, what do I feel like at the end of those 40 hours? At the end of those 40 hours, you should have the confidence to be able to program some basic things in Python. You should develop some of your programming skills, especially if you spread out that 40 hours of learning over 8 weeks. And you should be able to turn what you've started learning in this course into a career somehow. Absolutely do believe that. But again, there's no way I can tell you after 40 hours, you're going to be totally fine. I have kids here that study, computer science for 40 years. And some of them, some of them don't get jobs necessarily immediately, right? So I don't want to like put your hopes on like this pedestal, this one course, and all of a sudden you're going to be hireable. But I will say for sure that you should be able to use these skills to do something in your life and to make something easier. And so at the very least, you start to pad your resume with like, hey, I've learned some of these skills. I now know the basics of programming, and I, want to continue my learning. Right? You have to continue your learning though, right? You, like I said, 40 hours is just not enough to claim that you can now all of a sudden, do what like my undergrads do in 4 years. That's not how it's going to work. But it definitely puts you on a start.
And then somebody asked, will we do any real world projects at the end of this course?
So that's a good question. There are lots, like I said, worked examples where I take what I claim is a real world situation and try to solve that problem for you. There are some examples in the course as well that you're going to solve of like, hey, this is a problem that I could see why I might want to or why I might need to know how to do this. There's no capstone project or anything in this course. The courses are completely auto-graded for sure. So do keep that in mind. But yeah, you'll absolutely be able to use the things at the end of this to do something. Like I said, password checkers, the obvious one. I think I have stuff on like ranked choice balloting, for example, if you're interested in political science. I have stuff in like medical fields, especially in Python 2. There's a whole bunch of medical examples of like how you can like how you could start building a classifier for things like diabetes or for, other diseases and things like this. Diabetes is the one I remember off the cuff. Yeah, there's all sorts of things like that, right? So I do feel like at the end of this, you do get a set of real world skills that you can apply to different situations.
Okay. Somebody asked, what are the advantages of Python over R, and why would you recommend Python?
Yeah, it's a good question. Some people will like live and die by R, and some people will live and die by Python. And trying to get into a language war with people, I'm not going to quite do that. I will say this though, in that there are more people developing more interesting things in Python than in R. Okay. That's not to say that like there's not cool things that you can do in R, and that's not to say a lot of what you will learn in this course you can translate to R or to Python. But I feel like if I was going to pick one language, I would pick Python, partly because there's just more things that you'll be able to do. There's more people that are developing in the language. It's a more alive language. Um, and so that would be recommend. Like, and again, if you're going to learn one, that's the one I would pick. There's nothing wrong with R. R is a completely fine language. A lot of data scientists use R. Most people are prolific in both Python and R. So like, that's a thing as well. My R is weak, to be very blunt and honest. As an instructor, I teach more Python than I do R. Um, I don't know if that has anything to do with your decision or to sway you in any way, but um, so that's what I would say. Um, Python just has a better community.
Okay, I don't have any other questions I think that are unanswered in the chat. I think they were either answered by Carmen. Oh, quick follow-up question. How easy is it to transition from R to Python?
That's a good question. It depends, I think, on your other languages as well. So R is primarily a functional programming language. Ironically, Python 2 might feel a little bit easier because you're going to do more of that functional style programming in Python 2 than Python 1. In Python 1, again, if your only languages are, it'll be okay, but it would help. Like, I mean, it would be easier if you had like, let's say, R plus a Java or a C or some sort of imperative language, which you're really making use of that paradigm. I don't think it'll take too long though to translate from R to Python. But the more important thing in Python 1, you're going to have a lot of like software engineering type skills that you're going to develop. So if you've never really developed that part of your repertoire, that might be, and that might take some time. Documenting code, writing functions, making unit tests, things like that. So hopefully that answers. I mean, it's hard to answer your question exactly, of course, but like any programming language that you have, moving to another one should make it easier, right? This one is like, what's the analogy that I would use in terms of real languages? Maybe like English, French, kind of the analogy versus like, if you see you were trying to translate to Python, that's probably more like a French to Spanish in terms of the difference, right? If that analogy kind of helps you out. So like, English to French is doable. French to Spanish obviously is a lot easier. Right?
Carmen,
Somebody asked about, oh, sorry, hang on. I just saw a question in the chat about like getting
yeah,
interviews and
sorry,
things
go
like that,
ahead.
right? Like getting interviews. So this is like, there's no like, here's how to like solve every question in the course. Like getting an interview really depends on, or like doing well in an interview, maybe I should say, really depends on your ability to problem solve. And so the more problem solving that you do, the more likely you're going to do well in an interview. This is hard to refute, right? Because in these interviews, they typically ask you to do problem solving type questions. They want to see how you think about problems. And so will this course help you in the interview process? Almost certainly yes, because you're going to have to ask and answer those types of interview questions. So not directly, but again, any problem solving that you do will help you out. Go for it, Alice.
Thanks, Carmen. I think that's a really important question that comes to mind for most people when they think about their professional development in general. How's this going to help me in the future? And sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask, there's a few questions in the chat regarding installation and things like that. So I thought maybe this would be a good place for you to talk about how the platform OpenEdX works, why we chose that, and some of the benefits.
Yeah. So the installation is incredibly okay. The installation either works, like if you want to download Python yourself, it's either you do the obvious thing and your computer just happily accepts it, or I feel like you like waste a day trying to figure out what your computer is doing. And that is like such an awful way to be introduced to a programming language, right? Where you spend the first day just trying to figure out how to get the darn thing to work on your system. That's not fun. Nobody likes that. The advantage to doing the course the way we've done it on OpenEdX is there's absolutely no installation needed. You don't like all you need to do is sign up with your credential, log into a web browser, and you can start typing your Python code and running it. Everything that I was showing you, everything that I was doing today was run on the servers that we have here, except for the Jupyter Notebook stuff. That stuff was done locally, but that's Python 2, right? If you don't have any programming experience, you're going to take Python 1, of course, completely in edX. Python 2 is also completely in edX. I like you to also download Python 2 by the end of Python 2. And in Python 1, you just need to log into the browser. How do you log in? They'll send you credential information. You log into your edX platform, and everything you do is within the browser. There's no installation. It's not difficult. There's nothing to do. Will I help people if they have installation questions? I can do my best, right? And I will do my best. But like you can imagine, things can happen. I've seen some really, really like egregiously difficult problems when it comes to installing Python. And it's taken me hours to try to figure out what's missing, what's going wrong, how to nuke things and start all over. It can be bad. And for like probably 95% of people, installing Python is not an issue. And for 5%, it can be either difficult to a nightmare, something like that. So, hopefully you're one of the 95% if you really want to get it downloaded. And if you're one of the 5%, that's okay too. You just, you work at it and you can install it. Every computer can install it. Just sometimes it takes a little bit more work. But to get through this course, you absolutely can do this without installing Python. You can do it completely within your browser. So as long as you have Firefox or Chrome downloaded, you're fine. We be ready for a job after the course? Again, right? You're getting programming for 40 hours by the end of this course, right? Whether or not that's going to make you ready for a job, I mean, if I were betting, probably not, right? But it's going to give you the starting point that you need, right? If you want to become a programmer, it's going to take time. Right? 40 hours is a good foundation. These two courses, well, Python 1 will give you a good foundation into becoming a programmer. And then the more programming you do, the more likely you will be able, the more likely you are to be able to make yourself hireable for a job afterwards. I don't want you to lie and think, oh, I don't want to lie to you and say, oh yeah, all you need is 1 week of studying and you can instantly become a programmer. That's just not a realistic expectation. I'm not going to lie to you like that.
Okay, I'm going to do last call for questions because we're about a minute away from the end of our time. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat really quickly.
Yeah, if you have any questions for me too, you can email me or you can email WatSPEED directly. Oh, I guess we should put your contact information up there. For more information, you can visit watspeed.uwaterloo.ca or contact the WatSPEED team at wats@uwaterloo.ca. Or me exactly. You can just email cbruni@uwaterloo.ca.
One question that came through. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I'll read it. I've signed up for data analytics for behavioral insight. Do they need these courses? Is this I'm guessing this is a WatSPEED course? I guess I don't know.
Yes, it's centered around R.
It's centered around R? Okay, so then like it's a different skill set. So I mean, again, the more you learn, the smarter you become. I don't know. That's a really weak answer to the question that you asked. Does one need to learn Python? I mean, there are plenty of humans on this planet that don't know Python and they survive quite well, right? But like, learning another language makes you smarter. So not necessarily a bad idea.
Okay,
You're welcome, Francis.
I'm going to wrap it up there. So thank you everybody for joining. If you have any questions that you didn't think of in the moment, or maybe we skipped, you can just email watspeed@uwaterloo.ca. Our contact information is up on the screen. And either I will answer them or Carmen will answer them. And then, of course, you can email him directly if you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody who is registered will be sent the link to this recording later on. So if you missed anything or you had to tune out or you came late or anything like that, you can watch the whole thing soon. So again, thank you. Thank you so much, Carmen and Ella. for running the workshop. And we hope to see you guys in a course sometime in the fall.
For sure. Tell
Thanks,
your friends.
everyone.
Bring it all. Take care, everyone. Hopefully see you in Python.